Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Glow Podcast. If you are new here, we are tailored marketing and we help skincare clinics, aesthetic clinics, and dermatologists grow their practices and increase their revenue. So if you're interested and want to learn more, drop a comment below. Today, I have a very exciting guest here with me today, Taylor, and I just kind of would love to ask you to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Yes, so I'm Taylor Thompson. I'm an exercise physiologist, and I'm the director of the Lifestyle Center for Hoskinson Health and Wellness Clinic. We're a new clinic in Gillette, Wyoming, and we have all the ologies: dermatology, cardiology, endocrinology. So we're a normal healthcare clinic in that sense, but we're building the latest and greatest technology. We have a stem cell lab, we have a hyperbaric center, and then our lifestyle center where we have a dietitian. I'm an exercise physiologist. We do sleep, we do blood work. So we also have a research department where we're working on longevity, increasing lifespan, and health span.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love what y'all are doing over there, especially with it being very integrative and very holistic. Like, I feel like that's kind of the future, really, of healthcare, honestly. And I know that the clinic also has grown really rapidly, too, from about 10,000 square feet to 80,000 square feet. What's driving that expansion and what's kind of the vision for the space?
Well, we're trying to reinvent healthcare. So we started with a small clinic, 10,000 square feet, and we brought in a bunch of doctors, and now we're bringing on the specialists and all the advanced testing. So in the new space, we'll have a compounding pharmacy. We will have a huge radiology department with MRI, CT, all the imaging modalities, and we really just grew so fast. There's a lot of healthcare needs in rural America that people are unaware of, I guess. So we're trying to solve that problem in this local community here, Gillette, Wyoming. And then from there, we'll be able to expand out. And we're trying to find good models for delivering the highest quality care at an affordable price.
Now, for someone who's never heard of the clinic, kind of how would you describe that blend of traditional healthcare with also all the other research and things that you all are doing?
That's a good question. So we have our research department, and we work on various projects there. That's kind of like a long-term vision. Particularly, we're looking at stem cells and also hyperbarics and how these can improve people's health. From a traditional healthcare standpoint, we see patients just like every other clinic does. We take insurance, we take cash. So however people want to pay, we're trying to be flexible so that anybody can get care with us. But then we're also exploring models of healthcare that are cheaper, like direct primary care, where you can pay a subscription to see your doctor, you can text your doctor. Because the current model, there's a lot of inefficiencies. There's a bunch of rent seeking out there where people are maybe not providing value, but it's costing the clinic money. So we're trying to find ways to be more efficient, to drive costs down and provide better care overall. And then ultimately the goal is to be able to provide a service where we're the ultimate of prevention. So for instance, there's things called liquid biopsies where you can get a blood test and it measures for cancer metabolites. These things are not insurance reimbursable at the moment, but the goal is to make them a normal part of your healthcare. And maybe not that one specifically, but there's a lot of these services that are more advanced, like DEXA scans. I don't know if you're familiar with DEXA scans, but these are becoming very popular for longevity and kind of the anti-aging community. So bringing those services online and allowing people access to those is kind of the overall vision.
Yeah, no, that makes sense for sure. And I want to go back for just a second for people who haven't heard of hyperbarics before. Could you kind of just explain, like, in a little bit more detail what that is and what the potential benefits for that are and what you all are using it for too as well?
Yeah, so traditionally in healthcare, the way it's used is in wound care is one of the methods, or like burn victims. They'll go in there and it accelerates the healing process. So in diabetes, if you have poor circulation, you could potentially get a wound that's not healing, and hyperbarics will help improve that. The physiological mechanism for that is we're trying to supersaturate your body with oxygen. So with high pressure, the oxygen molecules are closer together. And right now, when we're not in a hyperbaric scenario or situation or environment, I guess I should say, the hemoglobin in your blood carries the oxygen. So however much hemoglobin you have, and we could get more into exercise physiology, essentially how much oxygen your body can consume is limited because of the pressure of the environment. So when you go to altitude, if there's athletes out there or anybody who's just been to altitude, exercise is more difficult at altitude, and that's because the pressure is lower, so your blood can carry less oxygen. So in a hyperbaric environment, what happens is the oxygen molecules can just go straight into the bloodstream without having hemoglobin in that loop. So then we can supersaturate the bloodstream with oxygen. It turns out it's really good for skin health, good for wound healing. There are some other things like you do get more reactive oxygen species. Are you familiar with this?
Not super. I would love for you to
Okay,
explain in more detail.
So anytime you're using oxygen to produce energy in your body, you produce reactive oxygen species. The way I like to think about this is kind of like a radiation. So they go around and they can cause inflammation and damage. You do need these. These are important signalers. It helps you heal and repair after a hard workout or after an injury. So these are important. A lot of times people think, oh, we don't want reactive oxygen species, but they do serve a purpose. Hyperbarics will increase that, and that could, so we're trying to find ways to mitigate that through different research modalities. Like the eyes can sometimes get a lot of reactive oxygen species, so we're looking into some eye drops potentially to help people be able to do hyperbarics with less downsides. There aren't huge downsides, but we want to minimize those as much as possible, so it could be like a normal routine. So professional athletes, they often use hyperbaric chambers in their house and go to clinics. It's really becoming a big thing. So we're going to have a 12-person. So that way 10 people can go in at once. It's a more cost-effective way to deliver the therapy. And there was a research study out of Israel that showed longer telomeres, if you're familiar with telomeres. They're one of the hallmarks of aging. They get shorter as you get older. And hyperbarics actually extended those by like 30%. So we're going to be doing some research with the hyperbaric chamber, measuring DNA methylation, grip strength, VO2 max, a lot of these aging parameters, and see if we can slow down the aging process.
Yeah, that's amazing. So mainly you all are using it, you know, you can use it for obviously those things that have already been tested with like burn victims, you know, things like that, but also you're using it to slow down the aging process.
Yeah, that's the hope. And I guess I could talk about like a general approach to slowing the aging process at the moment. So we do accept the original or the traditional healthcare services with hyperbarics, but then we want to expand that. So like our traditional model in the longevity community at the moment is very lifestyle oriented, and that's probably the best model we have right now. There are some drugs, and they work on kind of the same models. The model that I've been working off of for improving resilience, let's call it, because that's going to help you age the best, is you want to think about the stress and recovery cycles. So for instance, if I put you on a treadmill and I don't let you stop, I make you run forever, right? Well, eventually you're going to die from that. Exercise, you could make the case that exercise is bad for you because it increases reactive oxygen species. If you're lifting weights, it's going to tear your muscles, right? So you could say, well, that's a bad thing for your body. But what is beneficial is then you actually get a benefit when you recover from that exercise. So that's how you build muscles, right? Is you damage them and then you recover and then they grow back stronger. So we've been working off of this resilience model to try to maximize health span, lifespan. So I've been looking at the stressors that we can put the body under that will improve health. So obviously, number one is exercise, and that's what I'm probably I am an exercise physiologist, so I know most about this. So if I make you start running, let's say 80 miles a week, are you a runner?
No, I'm not. I mean, I do sometimes, but not going to be able to run 80 miles a week.
Yeah, so that's a ridiculous thing, right? It's going to be bad for you if I make you do that. But if you take an athlete who's an endurance athlete who's professional, that's what they're going to be running, and they can recover from that. So what we want to do is we want to find the amount of stimulus or the amount of stress that's going to optimize your recovery and your ability to adapt. Same thing if I make you lift weights for 4 hours, super heavy, you're going to be destroyed the next day. It's actually going to be bad for you. So the model we're kind of working on is how do you apply stress, and then how do you maximize recovery from that stress? So sleep, obviously, we do sleep studies, we do sleep analysis. I got all the trackers on, Oura Ring, Garmin watch. So
that's awesome.
Sleep is super important for recovery. So we want to maximize sleep. And then exercise, you don't want to do too much, but you want to do enough. So we do metabolic exercise testing where we put you on a treadmill, put a mask on you. We can sample your blood as well. We can find optimal training zones, see where you're at. And then from there, we build training plans. So we don't want you to exercise too much. We want you to exercise in the right amount. Same with lifting weights. So we could talk about like the most bang for your buck, the optimal programs for that. But just to get through this idea of stress and recovery, hyperbarics is a high pressure environment, which that's a certain stress on the body. Just like hypobarics, which is going to altitude, has a certain stress on the body. It will actually increase how many red blood cells you have. So we can stress the body with exercise. We can stress it with pressures. We can stress it with temperature. So sauna, everybody's into like hot and cold therapy. Sauna is really good. The optimal sauna protocol is, at least in my opinion, is 4 days a week, 20 minutes per session at 180 degrees. That could change in the future, but that's my belief of the current optimal program. And it's good for a lot of reasons. It decreases cardiovascular disease. It it actually keeps your body cooler. So if you look at overall like ability to regulate your body temperature, sauna is going to really improve that. And then it also improves heat shock proteins. So these go down as we get older. And heat shock proteins, they're chaperone cells. They go around, they clean up misfolded proteins. So protein misfolding is one of the hallmarks of aging. And sauna therapy will increase the heat shock proteins out there to refold these proteins, because that sauna therapy is causing proteins to misfold. So then our body upregulates the defense against that. So that's kind of the stress mechanism behind sauna. If I put you in a sauna forever, eventually you're going to die. So it's all about using these stressors appropriately. What other stressors are there? There's heat, there's temperature, there's exercise. There's some interesting ones with like flexing the cell wall. So your cell's like this. And if you apply some type of mechanical pressure to stress the cell wall, you could build resilience there. That's kind of a thing I've been looking at a little bit. I'm not an expert on yet. Same with radiation, right? So radiation damages your cells. If you get a lot of it, it's really bad. But every day we're getting a little bit amount of radiation. And there's a theory out there that this might actually help your DNA repair mechanisms. So we're trying to approach, same with fasting. If I make you fast forever, you're going to die. But fasting is a certain stress that causes your cells to recycle old materials, build new mitochondria. So that's kind of the model that we're working on, is how do we stress and then recover to make ourselves most resilient. And then even drugs work this way. So metformin, for instance, it does some things to the mitochondrial channels. And that can maybe, you could say, I don't know if this is true, but this is at least the thought, is that it stresses some of the mitochondrial channels and it might make them more efficient in the future. So drugs work this way as well. So that's kind of the model we're working on. I'm also trying to figure out, the fundamental causes of aging. So if we can address those at the root, that would be better. Right now, we can add maybe 4 to 10 years of life and improve health span. But in the future, we'd like to up that to, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, that's such an interesting perspective too, because I haven't really thought about those specific mechanisms that way before, where you're putting a certain amount of stress on the body really to increase these things to basically help with the anti-aging process and really just help with your overall health in general, too. So that's such an interesting perspective that you all have with that, the research and stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, so that's kind of the working model. We're looking for anything that can make more improvements. So that's why we're investigating stem cells that will theoretically improve the recovery process, just like hyperbarics with that supersaturation of oxygen should increase the recovery process as well as being a stressor. So applying these modalities in the right ways is kind of where the best way forward in the approach to longevity is at the moment, but hopefully we get better solutions in the future, because it's hard to make lifestyle changes. Exercise is difficult. I haven't exercised consistently for the last month, and I'm an exercise physiologist. I know how good it is for me, so I have to get back on it. But these things are difficult for people. So trying to make it easier. If there was a magic pill, if we could put exercise in a pill, this would be great. But I'm a little skeptical on our ability to do that at the moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense for sure. And so you mentioned stem cells as well, too. Obviously, this is kind of a big buzzword in anti-aging and really healthcare in general right now. What is the hopes with kind of this research and you all using them for treatments with stem cells?
Yeah, so everybody has stem cells in their body right now, and they go to areas and they heal you, and they're kind of like magic cells. So trying to harness the power of that to heal your body is the goal. Turns out it's quite challenging, especially with regulatory bodies and everything, which is good because it makes sure things are safe, but it also slows down research and it can be challenging to get through. So we're working through that process at the moment and trying to find the best way to apply these to help people, right? So it's could they be used for hair loss? Could they be used for diabetes? Some people are seeing some improvements. There's been some studies out that are showing it could maybe grow beta cells back in your pancreas. So these types of things, right now, healthcare, typically you get the disease, then we give you drugs to mask the effects of the disease, and we hope that it extends your life or your health. So we're trying to reverse that, where instead of doing that, we're using your body's healing powers to try to recover from these things. Because when you're young, you recover super quickly.
Yeah.
The idea, I'm 34 now, the idea of me training like I used to in college and running 80 to 100 miles a week is so much. And I'd have to build up to that again. I just can't recover as quickly as I once did. So trying to find modalities like hyperbarics and stem cells that use your body's ability to repair and recover, we're trying to switch to a healthcare model where we can do that, because I mean, this would be good for everybody if you could just go get some stem cells. And we're using adult stem cells, so we avoid the, what do you want to say, the morality issues with stem cells. So so we're using adult mesenchymal stem cells, at least what we're looking at right now. And there are a bunch of other things. Have you heard of Yamanaka factors?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so essentially you can take fibroblasts, I believe they in urine, and you can wash them in Yamanaka factors, and you can actually reverse the cell all the way back to a stem cell. And people are trying to then reprogram them. So it's a long road, and there's a lot of people doing research on this. We just decided we would start with adult mesenchymal because they're already available and in the market. And so, it's an interesting way to like change medicine. Hopefully. We're still figuring things out. We're at the beginning of this process.
Yeah, it's a long process too. And I feel like with stem cells too, you were kind of already going into, there's so many possibilities kind of with the regeneration and everything. And then there's so many different ways to use them. One term that you mentioned during our first call, I don't know if you've mentioned, I don't think you have mentioned it today, but you mentioned hormesis, which I feel like kind of goes along with what we're talking about right now. Can you kind of explain what that is? And how do you use that theory kind of in research and treatments as well too?
Yeah, so hormesis is the idea of a stressor could be too much or you could recover from it. So that's what I was kind of talking about before, the stress and resilience model. So hormesis is just kind of the science term for it. I think most people would understand the stress and resilience model a little bit better. So trying to apply that throughout your life and optimizing that is kind of the key to longevity at the moment.
Yeah, no, for sure. That makes sense. You already explained it. Basically, that's just kind of the scientific term for it. Yeah,
hormesis is a professional term for it. Like there was an old story, I don't remember, some king way back in the day. I believe he thought his mom was poisoning him. So he ran away, and what he started doing is he started taking small amounts of poison to try to build up his resistance to poison. Okay. The story goes that it worked, that he built up a resistance to poison. I don't know how true that is, but it's kind of the same concept. We don't think of exercise as poison because we know it's good for us. But if you overdo it, it technically is, right? It could be really bad for you. Have you ever heard of, what is it called? My brain is freezing right now. If you exercise too much and you do too much muscle damage, creatine kinase, CK levels will spike in your blood, and it can be deadly. Your kidneys can't filter through it all. So people who do work out too hard too early on, this is a real risk. So you could think about exercise as being that way, but then it's the recovery effect or the hormetic effect that actually makes you stronger. Yeah.
And then that makes me think of too, it's like a thing that you can get if you're dehydrated and you work out too much and your muscles basically like tighten up on you. Do you know what I'm talking about? What is it called? I feel like it starts with an R.
Rhabdomyolysis. Yep. That's what I was just referring to. Yep. I couldn't remember the name. So there you go.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what it feels like. And actually one of my friends, that happened to him, and he called me. He's like, hey, my hands are all tingly. And right away I was like, you're fine. You know, but then you start to, pee red or foamy stuff. And then that's the time to go to the hospital. So he went to the hospital. He was okay. But it can be really, really dangerous.
Yeah, no, for sure. That makes sense. And kind of pivoting a little bit here, you've shared how sauna and hyperbarics impact kind of overall health too. Can you explain how these can also work for skin too?
Yeah, that's a good one. So if you think about like physiological mechanisms, let's just start with one of them. So hyperbarics, it's going to supersaturate your blood with oxygen, and then oxygen is going to help you produce ATP or energy, and every process in your body requires ATP for energy. So I actually think metabolic health, people talk about it a lot. It's kind of a buzzword. This is probably one of the things I know most about, and I'm doing some interesting new testing on this right now. But the idea is if your body can produce a lot of energy and produce a lot of ATP, it can help manage all the processes of your body. So when you do hyperbarics, the idea is we're going to increase the oxygen, which is going to increase the ATP or the energy, and then that's going to be able to help all the processes that help keep your body healthy. But then in addition to that, it is going to increase the blood flow. So for instance, VEGF, which increases your ability to produce blood vessels, it can increase the vascular system to grow. It's a pressure to grow. And if you increase the vascular system of your skin, then that's going to help bring more blood flow to your skin, which is going to deliver more oxygen, more nutrients, more energy. So then theoretically, it should help with skin health. And if you look at studies, it shows really good results for skin health. And how they measure that is collagen density, I'm definitely not an expert on skin health,
Yeah.
but it is, it seems to be really good for skin health. And then sauna, I would say, when you heat up your body's going to shunt blood flow to your skin because you need to sweat. And so
Yeah.
what you're doing when you're in the sauna is you're actually bringing the blood flow to the surface of your skin, and you're going to just pump a bunch of blood there, and then you're going to sweat out to cool your body. But all that blood delivery is going to bring nutrients, it's going to bring energy. And so theoretically, it should be good for your skin. I haven't seen any studies. I haven't looked at it definitively that it is, but theoretically it should be good. And if you're better at refolding proteins as well, this should help with skin health overall. Another thing that I think is really good for skin is red light therapy and infrared light. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of a low risk and potentially beneficial method. I believe from a Huberman podcast, red light therapy is one of the best things for regrowing hair as well. So I have the red light caps, and we have a red light bed in our lifestyle center. So I have a light that flips on every morning, 10 minutes before my alarm goes off with red light.
Yeah.
It's a good way. How much does it affect? It has the same model. It increases ATP production in your cells, particularly in the morning. So if you are going to use red light, I think it's best to use in the morning. That's still a little bit debatable, but that's my belief. So red light's really good. I'm trying to think what else would be good for skin health. Well, we talked about this when we initially met, the skin cream from pharmaceutical.
Yeah.
What was it called again?
The
retinoids.
Yeah, the
There we
retinoid.
go. Yeah, and that turns over what am I trying to say? Skin health. I think your skin cells replace themselves every 9 days when you're on that versus every 14 days, something like that. So that's kind of another stressor, in my opinion. Like if you put on too much of it, you're going to kind of burn yourself.
For sure.
I think that's also working on that hormesis principle where it's a stress resilience model. So you stress your cell, you get new turnover, then you get a fresh, healthy cell in its place.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's kind of like if you can't do too much at the beginning, at least, you can work yourself up to that healthy balance. But in the beginning, if you do too much, then going from nothing to like all in is not going to work.
I tried it. My face blew up. Everybody was wondering what happened to me. I still have a little bit of it. You can still see so I'm still recovering from it right there.
Yeah, no, I believe it for sure. Cause I mean, it's like you said, going from not running at all to like the first week of running, you're trying to do like 80 miles. It's like, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah. And I think skin health is a good barometer for aging as well, because if you're in the sun all the time, you can see the effects on people, especially drivers. Have you seen those pictures with truck drivers? They're like, this side of their face is just way more older than the rest of their body. So yes, the skin is one of your largest organs. So maintaining the health of it is super important. We actually have this dermatology scanner where you stand like this in the system and it'll scan your whole body. It'll mark every mole on your body. And then our dermatologist can use that to go over and make sure there aren't any drastic changes going on. So yeah, I think it's a good barometer for aging and just maintaining health in general. Like you can look at somebody and you can kind of guess how old they are. And
a big teller of that is skin too. I feel like when you look at people and you are guessing how old they are, one of the first things you're looking at is their skin, kind of.
Well, yeah, it's a great signaler of health to people. So improving your skin just improving your health overall should help your skin and vice versa. So the aesthetics business is huge because everybody wants to look good. And if you maintain your health and optimize your health, which is kind of what our goal is, then you should see some kickback on your skin there as well. Yeah,
no, for sure. And you talked about that scanner a little bit. What is that scan called? I'm so interested.
So the company is Vectra. It's a Vectra WB360.
Okay.
So it's these huge arches, and you just stand in the middle. I think it has like 96 cameras, takes a bunch of images, and then you can take close-ups of each individual if you have some concerned spots. And then a dermatologist can review it and see what the risks are, and you can track things over time. If you have one or two, for some people, like I don't have a ton of moles on me, but for some people they have a bunch. And so if you're doing biopsies every time on those, that's quite a lot. If you have one or two that need a biopsy, that's not necessary, I guess, for the scan, but I still scan myself just to see. It's interesting to see the changes.
For sure. No, that is very, very interesting. And so we kind of talked a little bit about some of the trends and things like you were talking about metabolic health, kind of like there's these big buzzwords out there right now. And another big buzzword right now is biohacking too. And so if someone's listening and they're kind of feeling overwhelmed by all these different buzzwords and, all these different things that are out there, what's one thing that you would recommend to them to start doing today that they could actually put into actionable steps and not get overwhelmed kind of by everything that's out there?
Yeah, well, I have a few ways to answer this. The first way is the number one thing is exercise. As an exercise physiologist, this is the easiest. And the benefits are just so good, not even for health span and lifespan, but for health span, not just for lifespan, but for health span. So your ability to do things as you get older. Everybody's seen that 70-year-old guy in the gym who's still cranking out 20 pull-ups. It's like, that's who I want to be. So that's kind of how I think. Actually, one of my employees last night said, I was just talking about something, and she was like, you think about your health as a 401k plan, like you're investing early because that's going to pay dividends in the future. So starting out as easy as 4 days a week, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of walking, anything to get your heart rate up is going to be beneficial. A good intensity to go to if you're not going to track your heart rate is going to be like breathing. So let's say you're on the phone talking to somebody. You should be able to have that conversation and they will probably know if you're exercising. So I was on a run the other day and my sister called. I was running with my cell phone, listening to a podcast. I decided to answer the call. And then halfway through, my sister's like, are you running right now? I was like, yes, I am. It was kind of like a run walk to keep my breathing in check. So that's a great way for people to start. Use your dog to take them on a walk or find friends. Do something that's enjoyable. I used to tell my students when I taught at Boise State that the unfortunate fact is if you want the best life, you're going to have to exercise. Then you need to make it enjoyable because if exercise is just terrible and you hate it, you're not going to do it. So finding friends to hold you accountable. So I'd say 4 days of 20 to 30 minutes of cardio. Low intensity is good. High intensity gives you a little bit more results, but just starting somewhere. Even a 2-minute walk, if that's what it takes, get some sunshine. This is a good idea. And then 2 days of resistance training. So that would be lifting weights. You can do it at home. You can do push-ups. The most bang for your buck, in my opinion, because everybody gets lazy, is for resistance training to do legs, upper body push, and then upper body pull. So you could do lunges or squats, 2 to 3 sets. So you do 10, rest, 10 more, rest, something like that. And then a push would be a push-up, bench press, something like this. And then a pull could be a pull-up or a row, something like that. If you do legs, a press, and a pull, you're basically doing a full body workout, and it should be really quick. If you did 2 sets of those, that's 3 exercises, you're looking at less than 10 minutes, maybe 15, and you can be done. So that's a great place to start, and people don't need to go, they don't need to fully commit and spend hours in the gym. They can just do those little things, and your first set is going to give you more gains than your third set. So if you do 1 set, and then you do 2 sets, that's going to be about 90% of the gains that you're going to get. So now if you're a bodybuilder, you're going to have to do the 5th set, the 6th set, the 7th set, the 3rd day, the 4th day. But 2 days is going to maximize the most bang for your buck in terms of resistance training. Every 3 days that you go without stressing your muscles, you start to degrade the protein or the muscle content. So hitting that system every few days. And then if you get to a place where you're happy with your body and you're strong and capable, then you can slack for a month like I've been doing. And you don't end up in a terrible situation. You can regain those gains fairly quickly. So I'd say that's the easiest, is just adding some exercise to your routine, whether it's at home or at a gym. But I guess the broader process that I would go through for the low-hanging fruit of optimizing your health would be 1, an extensive blood panel. So just a wellness panel at any clinic wherever people live will give you a lot of information. It'll tell you the health of your kidneys, of your liver. It'll give you your blood glucose. So that's kind of metabolic health. It'll measure a bunch of the basic stuff. So you could just go get a $40, $50 wellness panel, and you'll get a huge amount of information. And from there, you can make sure you don't have any risk factors. So I try to approach it from a risk factor perspective. So personally, I have high cholesterol, and it runs in my family. So this is a high risk factor for me. So I'm trying to address this so I don't die of a heart attack, because everybody knows a skinny, in-shape runner drops dead of a heart attack, and I want to avoid this. I also have diabetes in my family. So my A1C is a little bit higher than I want it to be. So I'm trying to address that and bring that a little bit lower. So A1C, lipids, these are going to be metabolic images of metabolic health. And then From there, you can have your doctor review it. Have you heard of functionhealth.com?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I tested out their system. They do a very extensive blood panel. It's like $500, but
Okay.
totally worth it. I've done it on myself. My sister had some health things. I told her to go do the test. And then after a few other tests, she was able to diagnose her health problems. I've been able to solve most of mine. So,
Wow.
And we have our own blood panel. We call it the Advanced Biomarker Panel. So we're basically measuring the health of all the organ systems and anything in your blood that could maybe trigger potential issues in the future. And then we try to address those early on before you know that there's symptoms. So that would be step one. Get some type of blood panel. You can get hormones tested, testosterone, with your wellness panel, or you could do the Function Health panel. They just go to any quest. Or you could fly to Wyoming. We're working on a concierge program where we'll measure and map everything, and then we'll give you like a yearly plan where we meet with you, we coach you. It's kind of like optimizing everything with your health. So blood work would be first. The second step would be body composition. So this is where, like a DEXA scan, you can do. At Boise State, we had everything: underwater weighing, DEXA scan, the bod pod, skin fold calipers. There's those scales too that'll tell you how much body fat you have. So maybe I should use body fat percentage. Body composition means muscle mass, fat mass, bone density. The DEXA scan will give you all of that. You could use a scale at home. Those aren't as accurate, but this is important because having too much fat mass is not going to be healthy. And then having not enough lean mass is also not going to be healthy. So for instance, as you get older, you're going to get sick. There's going to be an injury or an accident that happens, and then you're going to end up not being able to move for a few days or maybe a week or 2 weeks. And what we see over time is, let's say your muscle mass is right here, then you get into a car accident and you're injured for a little bit and you don't exercise, then you get this drop and now your muscle mass is here. A few, 2 or 3 of those hits in your lifespan, over your lifespan when you're 70, 60, however old, those are going to be devastating on maintaining your ability to function as you get old. So for me personally, I need to increase my muscle mass. So with our DEXA scan, you can see how much lean mass you have, how much fat mass you have, and then how much visceral fat. This is the fat around your organs. This is the most dangerous fat. So we can optimize all of that and try to fix any issues potentially so that people have the best lifespan, health span, whatever you want to call it. But we're trying to help people live as long and as healthy as possible. So that would be number 2, get a body composition analysis. A lot of colleges will have these services available. So if you look up their exercise science program, they typically sell these tests. Third would be a sleep study. So we do at-home sleep studies because sleep is so important for recovery. You can also use watches and things to track. So if you're getting low sleep scores, this is a good sign that you need a sleep study, and then we can diagnose sleep apnea, treat it with CPAPs, and we have all the ways to try to treat it. We have a sleep doctor that works for us. So these are just at home. Depending on what state you're in, we could potentially ship those to people, but you could probably find one locally. There's some online companies that sell them for cash if your insurance won't cover it. But analyzing your sleep is super important. Then next would be your diet. So we have a dietitian in our lifestyle center, and trying to correct, once you have your lab work, there can be things that you can correct through diet, increasing fiber, increasing protein. The DEXA scan can tell you how many calories you should eat every day for weight loss or weight gain, muscle building, fat loss, whatever your goal is. So we help people with that process and then try to get their diet right. And then the last one is physical function. So we have a physical therapist. Starting in 2 weeks, we'll be doing like full body analysis. So for instance, a lot of people might not know what's going wrong, but let's say I go to get my analysis done. Maybe this shoulder doesn't have the range of motion that it should. And over time, what's going to happen is I'm not going to use that range of motion because of maybe a past injury. Well, now pretty soon my function just starts to decline rapidly as I get older. Or maybe it's a knee and people aren't walking. So we want to be able to do an analysis to make sure that everything is in check there. And then and from there, we get into VO2 max, your ability to use oxygen, because we get a lot of patients who are very deconditioned because they just haven't been taught about exercise and the importance of it. And so as you get older, your VO2 max is going to drop 1% every year until starting at the age of 30 to 40, and it's just going to a steady decline. So we want to address those problems. We get people on the treadmill, they're extremely deconditioned, and they think they're sick. And I mean, I guess you could say they are sick because their metabolic health isn't very good. But then we have an exercise class and exercise coaching where people can start to improve their ability to use oxygen. And then that allows them to do their daily life or live their daily life again. So you see patients where walking up the stairs is a very intense workout. They're going to be at 90% of their heart rate to get up the stairs. And life is very hard to live when you get to that point. But the good news is old people can make huge gains from exercise. Yeah, exercise is the short answer. Long answer is blood work, sleep, body composition, nutrition, and then physical function.
Yeah. And it sounds like too a lot besides obviously the exercise portion, but everything else is like becoming aware of what's wrong first. And then it's like, okay, then we can fix it from there. And I feel like so many things are kind of like that too, where it's like, if you don't know what's wrong, then you're not going to be able to really fix it.
Yeah, a great example is continuous glucose monitors. Have you heard of these? The CGMs people wear for diabetes. I've been wearing them on and off for a few years. Some exercise physiologists tell me I don't need it because I don't have diabetes. But it's very interesting just to see the data because, I got two examples. One is I was traveling for work. I was staying in a hotel and I was eating McDonald's in my hotel bed at like midnight. And I just saw the graph just skyrocket.
That's
And my blood
crazy.
glucose just went to the moon, and it came back down because my insulin functions, so this is good. But people don't know what's happening inside of their body until they can actually see it. So that was really interesting. And then another way we can use it for athletes. There's this thing where if you eat right before a race, you can actually get low blood sugar. Usually you want to eat because you're going to get a higher blood glucose, which you're going to be able to use for energy. But if you are in a situation where, what can happen, I'll just explain the physiology, is you eat food, right? Once you eat food, your body's going to release insulin to pull that glucose out of your bloodstream and into your cells. Because if your blood glucose goes too high, you're going to pass out, go into a coma, not a good time. So when people have diabetes, they have to manage this externally. But if our bodies are healthy, metabolically healthy, they should do the job themselves. And so if you eat food, then now your blood glucose is going up, your insulin's going to go up to try to counteract that and pull the sugar into your cells. Well, now you go exercise, right? So I used to ride my bike to work. Well, I will soon again. It's summer. And what I would find is my CGM would start to alert me that I have low blood sugar. Because what I was doing is I was giving it two stimuli to pull glucose out of my system. So the insulin was helping pull glucose out of my system. And then when you exercise, you actually push these things called GLUT4 receptors up to the surface of your cell, and they also pull out sugar. So what I was doing is I was hitting it with two ways to pull sugar out, and then my glucose was dropping. So it's fine because I'm going to work, and my liver's just going to boost my glucose back up, so I have no issues. But for some patients, that could be a problem. Or for athletes, it's going to be a problem because you feel a little bit shaky sometimes. So CGM showed me exactly what was going on there, and it was cool to see what I had read in a textbook actually affect my readings right there. And then it explained the whole process there. So it's a great tool, and there's a lot of those tools for metabolic health. Oral glucose tolerance tests are really interesting as well. You drink a bunch of sugar, then you sit there, we measure your glucose, we measure your insulin. It can tell you how that system is working before you get diabetes, I guess. So it's kind of a very, very preventable test. Peter Attia is all about this, and I'm a big fan. He used to exercise, so.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a good way. If you can't see the data, you don't know what's wrong, then it's hard to fix it. So if you can measure it, then you can fix it is kind of the overall umbrella that we're working under.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's super, super important to be able to measure it. Like you said, because it's like you don't know that you have a problem if obviously you're not able to see what's happening under the surface. I feel like that was such a great conversation, and I just would love for you to tell my listeners where they can find the Hoskinson clinic, and also where to follow your work as well on social media or wherever you all are most active.
Yeah, so our website is hoskinsonhealth.com. If you Google Hoskinson, just Hoskinson Health. If you Google the word Hoskinson, you'll be able to find the spelling, Hoskinson, HoskinsonHealth.com. And we have a really cool Hallmarks of Aging page. So if you go to our research tab, you can see all the Hallmarks of Aging there. There's 12 of them. And we have a really cool graphic where you can check that out. Or I'm on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter. It's TJ Tomps. Maybe we can put that in the show notes so people can see how that's spelled. My YouTube channel is the same. TJ Tomps is my handle to find me on YouTube. And
awesome.
On there, I have our website linked as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can put everything in the show notes too, so it's easy access for everybody as well.
Perfect. Yeah, this was really good. Yes, good questions.
Awesome. Good. Well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.
Yes, thank you. See you.